From FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field, it's the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, the 101st edition of American Soccer's National Championship. The Columbus Crew taking on the Indy 11 of NASL here tonight in Akron. Hi everyone, welcome to thecrew.com. I'm Neil Sika with thecrew.com's Ryan Schwepfinger. We are here to have some fun. It's the fourth round of the Open Cup. Round of 32, Columbus coming in during their 3-week group stage World Cup break. The Indy 11 off a victory over the Crew's USL Pro affiliate, the Dayton Dutch Lions, and a chance to branch out into Summit County and get some other Crew fans involved, Ryan, for the first time.
Absolutely, yeah, and behind us here you can see a nice atmosphere already developing, a unique one. Some fans up on ropes right behind the goal, an intimate atmosphere, exactly what Greg Berhalter said was one of the advantages to playing here.
National champions, the Zips, who play on this field in 2010, one of the banner programs in NCAA soccer. Okay, for the Crew, 4, 5, and 6 in the first half of the MLS season. There's usually a thought process that goes into this for coaches while you're playing in the middle of the league. Do you start your best guys? Do you play some reserves? But the World Cup break lends itself to playing some of your top dogs. We're going to see that tonight from the Crew.
Yeah, definitely. You might say the World Cup break and this match scheduling came at a great time because Columbus is affronted the opportunity to play a majority of its first team here. You'll see Captain Michael Parkhurst at center back. Steve Clark is the goalkeeper tonight. A largely first team lineup here as the Crew looks to advance in the U.S. Open Cup.
One caveat to that, a guy who's got a lot of minutes off the bench as a rookie, and that's Adam Bedell. A chance to really emerge that striker position, maybe not solidified until the summer transfer window. You have Jairo Arrieta, but a kid like Bedell, the rookie out of Detroit, chance to make an impression tonight.
Absolutely, and this really is, when you look at this lineup, you could say this is Adam Bedell's big chance because he's getting an opportunity to start amongst a largely first-team side here. And, I've been speaking with him after the past couple of matches, and he's told me he's getting so close to scoring that first MLS goal. He feels like he's really coming along well. We saw that in D.C. when he had a thumper of a shot saved by Bill Hamid right near the end that would have given the Crew the win. Presumably, you never know what would have happened there with that penalty kick, but still, for Adam, it's a great opportunity. He'll have talent around him, and now it's up to him to see what he can do with it.
Professional soccer in Indianapolis returning from after a 10-year hiatus. Many remember the Indiana Blast of the 3rd division. Now they go to the 2nd tier, the Indy 11. First season, spring season, well, maybe not as good as they had hoped for. However, you're building the grassroots. Great fan base. It's traveled well. And you get that first important win in the U.S. Open Cup over the Dayton Dutch Lions, as they've got a lot of Hoosiers on this team, right?
Definitely, yeah. It's a team that the Crew shouldn't and can't take lightly. They have some talent. We've seen Montreal Impact loanee Blake Smith had a hat trick against Dayton to help them get to this match. They also roster former World Cup champion and Union designated player Claberson, who's not here tonight, but still gives you an indication of the type of players that are coming to this relatively new squad. And we had an opportunity to speak with some of the staff members for this game, and they told us they haven't been shut out in any game this season, so maybe a bit of bad luck there. As you mentioned, Dayton winless, but still, they're scoring goals, and it's a bright future in Indy.
Well, let's not forget they're under some great direction, too. Former Crew goalkeeper Jurgen Sommer, a member of 2 World Cup teams. Great to see him, and I know him and Greg Berhalter have formed a pretty good partnership. They played each other in the preseason.
Absolutely, and in speaking with Sommer before this game, you could tell that he really has a good relationship with Berhalter, as you mentioned, playing each other in preseason, also just veterans of soccer in general. Sommer was one of 4 Crew representatives on the 98 U.S. World Cup team, joining Brian Masonov, Thomas Dooley, and Brian McBride, of course. So a very historical figure here in soccer, leading this Indy 11 side as they look to build up their strengths in the NASL.
Well, don't sleep on the new version of the NASL. 3 teams have already advanced to the round of 16, punctuated by that big upset, the Cosmos over the Red Bulls. Crew going to be leery here tonight.
Definitely. All 3 happening on the same night, too. We saw one penalty shootout, Carolina beating Chivas USA. We also saw the Atlanta Silverbacks getting through Real Salt Lake, a perennial MLS power, a finalist in this tournament last year. So you can never take anything for granted, regardless of the record. For these NASL teams coming in here, this really can be defined as their season. This is an opportunity for them on the big stage. It's a great chance, and you know that they're all going to be taking it seriously. The Crew will as well, and they can't take Indy lightly tonight.
Crew advanced past this round last year, lost to Chicago. Haven't made the deep run since 2010. They lost the Open Cup final to the Seattle Sounders. The journey begins tonight for Lamar Hunt's trophy, and we'll have it for you here on thecrew.com. Lineups coming up from FirstEnergy Stadium here in Akron after this.
attention to the field level as the referees and teams enter the field for the start of...
Welcome back. The team's taking the field here at FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field, home of the University of Akron Zips. On the University of Akron campus, Neil Sika, Ryan Schwepfinger, ready for the fourth round of the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. We'll have the lineups for you in just a moment, but down to the field for the national anthem.
Crew fans, please stand for the playing of the U.S. national anthem.
It is 87 degrees, humidity 50%. The first ever meeting between the Columbus Crew and Indy 11. Indy is coached by Jurgen Sommer. He played 2 seasons with Columbus. One of them lost to a knee injury in 1999. Very solid 22 games in 98. 2-time World Cup member in 94 and 98. This is a 4-4-2 for the Indy 11. They defeated the Dayton Dutch Lions 5-2 back on May the 28th to advance to take on Columbus. In goal, Christian Niecht, a 13-year pro who grew up in Jena, Germany. The 32-year-old spent the last 2 seasons with Rochester in USL Pro. The back line consisting of left back Chris Estridge. He's an Indiana product, also played briefly at Wake Forest. The center backs, Fujiro Okiyama, a cup of coffee with Chivas USA. He was waived right before the start of the season. He's paired with Eric Norales, who missed out with the Los Catrachos and the World Cup team down in Brazil. He has 29 caps. Marathon, his team in Liga Nacional, the last 5 seasons before coming to the NASL. Andrew Stone is the right back. Stone played at Wisconsin-Milwaukee and Wisconsin-Green Bay. The midfield consisting of Brad Ring and Kobe Moore centrally. Moore attacks, Ring sits behind. He played with San Jose and Portland in Major League Soccer. In the midfield wide, it'll be Victor Panetti. Just went on loan from Chicago. Wasn't getting a lot of minutes for Frank Lopez and the Fire. Blake Smith, the hat trick in the game against Dayton. Pedro Mendez. And journeyman in the lower divisions, Michael Ambersley, the forwards for Indy as they wear their checkered flag. Red, white shorts with blue trim. The sunshine strip for the Crew in their 4-2-3-1. Here's the look for Greg Berhalter's club. Steve Clark has been the boss in goal. He'll start there tonight. The back four, Josh Williams, just up the road in Copley, his hometown, as he appears at the right back role. Didn't play against D.C. Michael Parkhurst and Eric Garrick in central defense. The left back will be Bernardo Anura, the Venezuelan. Nice round of applause for Ben Spees. He the line in the midfield with Ethan Finley and Hector Jimenez. Tony Chani and Daniel Palladini in the holding roles. And the forward is Adam Bedell. We are underway under the direction of Dimitar Shavdarov here in Akron. Glad to have you aboard on the Crew.com. The 15th appearance proper for Columbus in the Open Cup. Champions in 2002. the bridesmaid 98 in 2010.
You know, and man to watch for Indy, we mentioned Blake Smith with a hat trick, but Ambersley actually tied for the NASL lead in goals 5 in 9 games. He's starting up top. He had a goal against Dayton as well, a bit overshadowed by the hat trick, but still an important guy to watch for this Indy 11 team.
7 players on this Indy roster that have tasted Major League Soccer, 2 active in Smith and Pineda on loan. They're in the lineup tonight. This is Spies, started here at Akron before finishing his collegiate career at North Carolina, a 2-time national champion. Off the left side of the stripe, this is Smith. The left back, Estridge, Brownsburg, Indiana native. Former Crew defender Kyle Highland is on this Indy team, but out with a left foot injury. He's really hoping to play against his former club. Just played with the reserves last year. Here's Williams. Norales, 29 years old, had 5 cautions, tied for the league lead in that spring season. They play 9-game split seasons. It was won by Minnesota United. 0-5-4 for Indy. Got their first win in that U.S. Open Cup previous round against Dayton. Can't hold it here on the line. Parkhurst, where's the armband? He'll toss in.
You know, already we've seen here Bernardo and Nora left back. Greg Berhalter's been trying that out in recent weeks, and you can tell when the Crew have the ball, he's pushing forward. That's something, a dimension that he gives them over a guy like Chad Barson, the former Akron product, more defensive-minded. And we've seen Arnor, even here, you can see how high he is. He's almost playing a left wing with Finley shading toward the middle when Columbus has the ball.
Eric Gehrig, stout defensively in the Crew's final game before the World Cup break at D.C., as was Steve Clark, the defense picking up its 3rd shutout of the season. Here's Spies, threads the ball at Finley, who really had a fine finish to the Crew's first 15 games, earns the first corner of the night in minute 3.
Finley, normally, you know, a right winger for Columbus, getting a shot on the left here, but as I just said in the early goings, he's almost playing more of a central spot. Crew definitely dynamic in formation tonight, going to rotate guys around, and from the early indications, it looks like they're going to try to get forward as much as they can.
Well, the Crew's maestro, Federico Higuain, coming back to health after the hamstring he suffered in the Salt Lake game, still leads the league in corners. Speed's taking over that honor, and the Crew deliver on the set piece. Bernardo Anior has made it 1-0 in the 4th.
Well, textbook corner, served in by Spies right to the heart of the box and just rise up, headed in for the Crew. It's an early 1-0 lead. Ben Spies been showing his ability to do that here on corner kicks. An assist, of course, to the goal in Toronto with Augustin Viana. And another one here, back playing at Akron as the Crew take a 1-0 lead here in the 4th minute.
So the 1-0 lead and a great start for Columbus.
Number 7, Bernardo Anior of Columbus.
Spies puts it on a platter. You mentioned the assist he had in Toronto. That was 2 minutes into his season debut.
0.
Another assist for Spies, Neil. Another assist for Spies, of course, to Finley in the last match. So he's certainly been providing the role of distributor here in Federico's absence. He's doing it quite well.
Pineda on the U20 World Cup team last summer, but has found minutes tough to come by in Chicago. He is a homegrown signing and only 21, as he can't control outside the channel here. So Anior, 2 goals in league play, and for someone who didn't see a lot of time on the reserve or Open Cup level last season, he had 3 goals in reserve play. Adds 1 to the count here tonight. The pressure here on Parkhurst and Pineda, forcing it off to Morales. It's found on the rebound, and Williams has to clear before it finds Clark. Corby Moore, Southampton Academy man, looking to poach on that. Here's Bedell, and Neat coming outside the box to play it aside.
Aggressive goalkeeping there from Neat. Came out and had to chest it away off of Adam Bedell there as he was just outside the box, as you mentioned.
Couple of turns on the captain Parkhurst. He was at right back against DC. Estridge, a good play up to take it at midfield. Anior. The Venezuelan launching, and Neat with Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 experience. Settled into Rochester in USL Pro the last 2 seasons. Was their first signing. He's out to his right back. Catapults down, and Clark will rotate out. This is Williams. Palladini. Injury halting his first half of the season. Appeared in a couple of games with 1 start. So Spies on a field he knows well. Sets the tone early for the Crew off the corner. And Anyor delivering. This is Estridge with Jimenez. So many additions that have made an impact or caught the eye of the casual Crew fan in that first half, Ryan. Jimenez being one, his passing exquisite. Tony Chani's consistency could put him in the top 3. He leads the club in minutes. Steve Clark has been outstanding. This is all aside from the big name signings. Gonzalez, who's away at the World Cup. Here's pressure on Clark. Anyor. Finley, who's tucked in. His teammates call him Bernie. And he sends a probing ball to space, but Estridge is there to close it down.
You really sense that Anor's going to have the freedom to get as forward as he wants here, and the Crew are going to be almost in what looks like a 3-man backline at times, with Tony Chani dropping back to kind of be that 4th option. It's definitely an interesting look, and one that we saw Bernie really excel at against RSL in that midweek match.
Would be remiss, it is Corrado, the right back for Indy, not Stone. He was drafted by San Jose. Corrado played at IU. 5 former Hoosiers on the Indy roster. Here's Finley. In a flash to Anyor. Brings it on ahead, and the Crew settle into the Circle City's real estate. Gehrig. Now it's Williams. They don't close him down, so he delivers right at Niecht.
Good ball movement there by Columbus. You see them move it from left to right, finding the space, the ball in by Josh Williams. Finley was in the neighborhood just a little bit behind him, but it's a good run of possession, for the Crew, and that's the way that, Greg Berhalter wants his team to play.
Well, these Open Cup games, Ryan, in the past, if you're an MLS club, you have to decipher if you're going to rest some guys, but just the chance to play your regulars with the lack of regular competition, the 3-week hiatus during the FIFA World Cup group stage, a chance here for the Crew to stay sharp. If you don't come out against a club that many think you're supposed to win and defeat, impose your will, then you let them build confidence. But on 5 minutes in, the Crew in front. I know last year Dayton hung around for a 2nd consecutive season. They pulled off the upset in Columbus in 2012. This is a good pass again by Spies over the top, and there is space. But Anyor, can he tap it down? He will keep it along the tightrope. There's Okioma. He has to fend it away. The center back from Austin, Texas. He played at High Point collegiately.
Another chance for Spies here on the corner. Let's see if the Crew can ring up number 2 in the same spot they scored the first one from.
10 minutes in. Anyor scoring the last time out on a set piece. This is Niecht windmilling it out. Smith in a 50-50 battle with Jimenez, and a straight shove in front of the Columbus bench. Shavdarov, our center official, is assisted by Corey Richardson, Igor Resnick. Chris Penso, Dover native, is the 4th official. Capacity here at FirstEnergy Stadium, which has seen many incarnations. Their most recent renovation in 2010 holds 5,000, but that depends on what you get on the Knolls. Slipping down in that channel is Palladini. Well, Crew fans haven't seen a lot of him, Ryan. He likes to play a little bit of a higher mold in the midfield above a guy like Tony Chani.
You know, he started there against Toronto, if I remember correctly, and he had a pretty nice run of play there. You know, he's a guy that's shown the versatility to play anywhere in midfield. Tonight getting a look in that holding spot, as you mentioned, alongside Chani. But, you know, as the match goes on, should the Crew need to press forward, he's certainly capable of doing that, and you see him there making a run, trying to get service over the top. And his abilities have not gone lost in the Crew this season.
Homegrown signing, an Akron product, Will Trapp, nursing back to health during the break. Here's Steve Clark, got away to northern Michigan for a few days. Crew off for much of last week. They resumed right around the weekend to get back into preparation for the game here tonight. Gehrig. What a nice ball over the top for Spees, who's in behind. Spees run off the ball in the end, but it'll be Columbus's third corner kick in the opening 12 minutes.
Great defensive play there by Okioma, getting back to stop what really amounted to almost a 3-on-1 with Honor joining that rush there from the left side.
Lenore on tour. They've made their presence felt. Indy has traveled well, too, for a 4.5-hour trip away. This is Bedell sinking back on that outswinger from Spees. Parkhurst. Bedell comes back deep. Onior can't track it.
Certainly one of the benefits to having Adam Bedell in the lineup is his immense height. You know, 6'8", a target on those set pieces gives the Crew an even more dangerous dimension. But, you know, in talking to him, he knows that that height is going to carry the label of a target forward, but he's trying to do all the things to become a more complete player. He doesn't want to be known as just a 6'8" forward, but it's certainly difficult to discredit that when you can see its ability to be used on a set piece like that.
Finley's pressure won the ball. Palladini floats it away. Well, Rick Berhalter commenting on the fact that Adam Bedell maybe hit a rookie wall, not used to all the heavy minutes in training, the preparation. Discovered at the Crew College Combine in the fall. 23-goal scorer at Detroit. He provides pressure here with Finley. It's Corrado. Down the line. Ambersley, both IU products on that right. Chani took it away. Palladini. Now Spees will look to find a little bit of space. He'll relinquish to Chani. Well, the reincarnation of the NASL came after that split, which was the USSF D2 season of 2010. You had clubs that were at a higher level skip down to USL Pro, make up what is now the current third division. And the NASL getting going in 2011. Another ball over the top that is a high line from Indy as they're in some treacherous spots, but it's too long for Jimenez for the goal kick here on the 14th. The Crew, the last time they played an actual team on the second division level, that's 2009. They lost on penalties to Rochester. This is their first meeting with a team in this new incarnation of the NASL. Everyone remembers the old glory days, and some of those names relived with Tampa Bay and New York. Found themselves an Open Cup win. A takeaway at midfield. A good through ball by Jimenez. Palladini looking to find Finley, but caught up to by Okioma to push it away. It's the fourth corner kick through the first quarter hour as Columbus, they've started brightly. It's 1-0.
You know, a good ball again out there wide right, but had that option not been selected, the Crew again had Finley streaking between the center backs. Another high line by Indy, you mentioned it. This could be something to watch for here. There's a lot of space as the Crew get on the board here.
Well, it's Finley, but it's waved offside as Jimenez sunk the ball in. Everyone thinking it's a goal. It remains 1-0.
No goal. No goal.
So the ledge remains at 1 as Finley was wide open, but a good step offside. Mendez thought he was shoved in the back as that frees up wide on the right. Chani for Finley. One-touch passing for the Crew. We resume league play on the 28th of June at home against FC Dallas. Despite just one win in their last 12 league games, sitting in a tie for 5th in the East. Spees. Finley. And the local boy, Williams. And a logjam there before Okioma clears it away, but not as far as Parkhurst. On to Chani and then through to Anyor.
The Crew wanted a handball call there just on the edge of the box. Won't matter as they retain possession in any case.
Talk of possession, the first time on the stat sheet outpossessed in that game against DC. Good ball, Jimenez, and that awkwardly careens off the knee of Bedell for an Indy throw.
You know, another element, with Adam Bedell, the trade of Dominic Aduro has really made Bedell the second option as a striker on this team behind Jairo Arrieta. We've seen that Greg Berhalter has said Ethan Finley, Justin Miram can play there, but he prefers to play those guys out wide. So beyond Bedell's audition tonight, this is really a chance for him to see if he can solidify himself as the number 2 striker here for this team.
One wonders, too, keep an eye on Aaron Schoenfeld down at Dayton.
That's a good point.
As he continues to bag goals. I know it's the 3rd division, but talk about a guy playing with confidence. He actually scored in the loss. So did Matt Walker, who's had a fine run at Dayton as well. True homegrown signing who played at Xavier. As they are cutting their teeth with more minutes down there in Southwest Ohio. We're in the Northeast tonight. In Akron, 1-0 Columbus in the 18th. Crew dominant in possession so far. An Anyor goal in the opening 5 minutes off the corner from Spees. A second off the board with Finley's offside call.
You mentioned Schoenfeld, 8 goals in 13 games played right now in USL Pro. That's tied for 3rd in the league.
Of course, it's still TBA if that will pan out to success on a consistent level at Major League Soccer, but you'd think eventually he deserves a look. Here's Anyor who lets it rip well wide. The ironic part of that, Ryan, was it was Ryan Finley going to Dayton that they hoped who could maybe morph into a Dom Dwyer and what he's become at Sporting Kansas City, and it's had that effect on Schoenfeld, at least to start. And Finley, as Crew fans know, traded to Chivas.
And Schoenfeld, too, kind of projects the same type of player as Adam Bedell in the sense that his height is the first thing you notice about him. So that's interesting, too, because it gives the Crew 2 of those taller options here as a backup striker.
Mendez with the Atlanta Silverbacks the last couple of years, 12 goals in 33 games. Off that right side at midfield, it's Corrado. Parkhurst with ease. Chess rolls it along the chalk. Mendez, who has Pedro on the back of that number 9 jersey. Working through a maze of Crew personnel and earns the foul.
Really the first bit of attacking possession here for Indy 11, and they'll have a chance with a set piece here from the right flank to swing a ball into the box and see what happens.
On the road in their NASL season, they were with 2 losses and 2 ties, played 5 home games at Carroll Stadium, which is on the campus of IUPUI. Here's Smith. Left-footed ball and a good one, and Clark has to punch it away. Looked like it was Estridge who got up in the air to pinpoint that one for the low corner, but Steve Clark doing what he's done through those first 15 games, making the critical save and keeping it a 1-0 Crew lead.
And how about that? You see the Crew left back getting forward and getting a headed goal there off a set piece. And for Indy, you see their left back getting forward, nearly putting one in to equalize here in the 21st minute.
In his final season at Indiana, Estridge, who's the left back tonight, was a first-team All-American. Clark will gobble this up. Approaching the midpoint of the first half. The early corner kick goal by Unyor off the head. Set up by Spies has put Columbus in front. Chani, that's a good pass to Jimenez. Wide for Williams, who stumbled a bit but stays on it. Lot of room. And then delivered it awry. Well, the one thing that Josh Williams continues to work on, that efficiency of the delivery in the final third. They play the line here, Gehrig and Parkhurst, and the offside flag is up.
Yeah, Josh Williams has been relentlessly practicing his crosses after practice. Nearly every time at training you go down there and you see him working on it tirelessly after everyone else has gone in, serving balls in. It's certainly an element of his game he's trying to improve.
Morales used leverage against Bedell. That was another good pass by Jimenez. Him and Spies, they are finding that space between the midfield and the back line to catapult the Crew attack. And off that foul, the restart. Your impressions through the opening first half of the opening 45?
I think it's gone pretty much the way that Greg Berhalter would have wanted, outside of maybe a nervy moment there on that set piece. But his team is controlling the ball well. They're getting players forward from the wings. They're making good runs against the high back line. You have to think that Coach Berhalter has noticed that and is going to be looking for ways to exploit it as the match goes on. And overall, I just think it's been a relatively uneventful match, and that's probably what the Crew wants in this instance.
Spies swings it in. Bedell cut him off the shoulder. Niecht will have the goal kick.
To that point, there's really no reason for the Crew to want to get involved in a track meet with lots of scoring. They're just going to be looking to come out here and play a solid game, control the ball. They have a 1-0 lead. We know how strong of a possession team they are. And I think that's certainly they're just going to look to settle down, hold the ball, and see this one out, maybe get a couple more along the way.
Of course, the final bullet point there, knock on wood, stay healthy.
Also true. You certainly know what happened in previous U.S. Open Cups with this Columbus Crew team.
Last year, if you were to talk to anyone who supports the black and gold, the final game of Eddie Gavin's career. Little did we know then. But a man of his own prerogative, and despite hoping to have him back after the ACL tear, he hung up the boots. Morales restarts here on the Columbus half. Not much to muster for Indy outside of that set piece. Had a half chance through 15 minutes. The NASL, they play that split season. 9 games in the first half, 9 in the second. They'll resume when the World Cup winds down. That is not just the group stage, but the knockout rounds in July. Here's Finley. Corrado caught that off the boot. And the Crew earned themselves another corner kick, which they're content with. Minute 24, a 1-0 lead.
Fifth corner of the match here on the early going for the Crew, 0 for Indy.
We'll talk about that Dayton game. Crew victorious in that round, 2-1 last year. Miriam and Gavin scored. Here's Niecht in front of Williams. Settled by Gehrig, who tried the half volley.
Not a bad display of technique there from Eric Gehrig.
What a hit. The deflection off the Palladini shot. A 6th corner kick for the Crew.
Continuing to threaten here on these set pieces. As you mentioned, Columbus going to the corner here for the 6th time. Bedell waiting near the penalty spot with Finley right in front of the goalkeeper, Niecht.
Spies serves it up. Bedell heads it high. Back to the Indy 11. We mentioned in the pregame the Indiana Blast. They were a D3 team, briefly in the A-League. And rounding out their run in the PDL in 2004. Of course, the collegiate presence at IU. So many good players coming through, and even their coach, Jurgen Sommer, 54 MLS games, but then time in England, QPR most notably. Finished at Indiana in 1990. Gehrig. Oh, that's a hard challenge from Mendez. Right on the right ankle. And they will call for the crew trainer, Craig Devine, Eric Gehrig. 3 league starts, 2 in succession to round out the first 15 games in the native of the state, although it's closer to Chicago. As we await what most certainly should have been a booking.
I believe our referee Shraverdov has indeed given the card to Mendez here.
It is a yellow card here in the 27th minute. Eric Gehrig, who's made that transition going from the midfield of his college days. And here defensively, and we've seen him be very stout defensively when he's focused on that defensive role, Ryan. It showed in the game against DC. More confident the more minutes you play. And you're in a battle here with Corrado. Wrestles that off the Venezuelan to win the throw. Pineda. Put in the direction of the Brazilian, Mendez. With the flag up for offside. You mentioned the other Brazilian on the roster, Kleberson, who didn't have the run Philadelphia wanted for the guy they signed to big bucks last season, a member of 2 World Cup teams, started the final in 2002. He's away on personal leave. Back in his home country. Chani. Those center backs split. You're aching to seeing Will Trapp when he's been in there play that role, but Chani has had one of the highest completion percentages on the team. This is Clark, and under a little light pressure from Moore, sends that away. Pineda off that giveaway, throws into Ambersley. Here's Pineda. Mendez. Good little run, but so hard to get past Chani 1v1.
Now let's see what the crew. I was going to say they had a chance to counter there with Jimenez streaking up the right side, but good job by Indy to break it up.
Spies couldn't hold it. Mendez had it clipped away. Chani steers to the circle. There's the Californian Jimenez. Williams, Palladini, and across for Anyor. Almost a third of the way through, 4th round of the U.S. Open Cup. Centennial mark for this fine tournament last year. As Chani, a good through ball, and this is Finley, and he forces Neekt into pairing it away.
And Finley tried to go short side there. A good save by Neek to dive up to his right. But how about the ball from Chani, as you say, splitting 2 defenders, a perfect pass. And Ethan actually almost had that top corner there, short side on the goalkeeper Neekt.
2 shots on goal for the crew. This is their 7th corner kick. Spies has taken them all. Over the head of Bedell, Williams the late run, and Chani whiffs on the 3rd attempt. Okioma to clear. And lugs it on up to midfield. But Ambersley's pass just a bit too far out in front of Blake Smith, who played in 3 games with Montreal before being loaned on May the 13th. Goal in 4 games for Indy in league play, but the breakout with the hat trick against Dayton. Played collegiately at New Mexico. Just 23.
Blake Smith, a first-round pick in 2013, actually taking the pick right before Ryan Finley, you mentioned earlier in our broadcast, taken right after names such as Eric Hurtado, Deshaun Brown, Kakuta Mane, Andrew Farrell, guys that are big-name players in MLS right now.
Mane, Brown, Hurtado there, having great seasons. Vancouver, a fine beginning to their start. A couple of Whitecaps on that list. Bedell pancaking Norales out at midfield. Mentioned the Akron connection. Spees playing there. Chad Barson on the bench. He was part of that 2010 team. We'll get into that later in the second half, but it's fascinating to look at the roster and who's played professionally, who's played in Major League Soccer, and who's been a staple in the league since that championship season. Lost on penalties in the final to Tony Chunny's Virginia in 2009. There's a foul here. And Estridge, who had the best chance off that set piece here in the first half for Indy, is hobbled a bit. And a card here to Bedell. So a booking aside through 32 minutes.
Number 29, Adam Bedell.
You know, another Akron connection we'd be remiss to mention. Josh Williams' hometown here.
Yep.
So many ties between the Crew and the Akron soccer program and community as a whole.
Copley man, you just go up Route 18.
And then speaking with Chad Barson a little bit before this match, when you mentioned, you know, I asked him, when you heard the match was going to be played here in Akron, what was your reaction? You could just see his eyes light up. He was really excited to come back here and play. Said he'd have a large cheering section, and you can tell this is a place that's really near and dear to his heart. And it's a cool opportunity. You look around, the stands are pretty well full, 360 degrees, fans sitting on the banks here. It's certainly different than the experience you would have gotten at Crew Stadium, but I think this is exactly what Greg Berhalter had in mind when making the decision to come play this match here.
They've wiped away the yellow card and given a red to Bedell. Well, Dimitar Shavdarov had conferred with his linesman on this after initially issuing a yellow. It is Bedell, which will actually be a second yellow turned into a red. Either way, the Crew go down one in personnel. So here on the 34th, it was tough to see what went on with Estridge, but the officials conferred, and the Crew down to 10.
You know, and looking at the replay here, the officials huddled right near the fourth official's area and talking about it. Adam Bedell was distant from the conversation, so I didn't see much in the way of dissent or anything like that. I just think you're right, Neil. I think they just had a discussion, determined that the foul was maybe more serious than it appears, and you can see the official held up his yellow and kind of made a no symbol with his hands, so I think this is a straight red as opposed to a yellow followed by a second yellow.
A red card has been issued to Columbus, number 29, Adam Bedell.
We'll get full confirmation, but Bedell takes a walk to the showers on this smarmy night in Akron, and the Crew, despite a 1-0 lead, down to 10 men, so it should add to the variety in this fourth round affair. 10 minutes till the half. Onior off the corner from Spees, but Bedell just sent off after Estridge, in pain, barreled over near midfield moments ago. A card initially issued, and then they changed the mind and issue a red.
Right away here you can see Ben Spees just shifting up to be that kind of lone striker role. Crew in a 4-4-1, if you will. Finley on the left, Jimenez on the right, with Palladini and Chani, the holding mids.
Well, that ups the work rate here for the Crew the rest of the night. 2 times in league play, Columbus a player sent off, and they've had 2 go in their favor. They've taken the lead, but Bedell sent away. Just outside the 10 minutes to play to the break.
You can only feel for Adam Bedell right now, too, because, you know, this was certainly his chance to show Greg Berhalter what he can do. And, you know, admittedly, it's difficult to tell exactly how severe the foul was from our vantage point, but still, his night being over here after about 35 minutes, he's got to be on the bench being a little upset about it, as you'd imagine.
Anior tucks it into Palladini. Rounds it off to Michael Parkhurst. The captain back to Steve Clark. Roommates on the road. And the Mason, Michigan man. Maybe a little bit more of a jump in Indy's step. Some added pressure along that flank, but Anior able to break it with some good pace. Williams run. Not going to get there. Here in the 37th minute, moments ago, Adam Bedell just sent off. The Crew taking the early lead as Chani slips. And on the break, Mendez. Sends that away towards Barberton. And a goal kick for Clark in the end.
Mistake there by Chani, just slipping over the ball, and a great chance there by Mendez. You wonder if maybe he had the room to take maybe an extra touch and get a little bit closer to goal if he had kept going out on that rightward angle, but in the end the shot is well high and wide for Indy 11.
The team taking their name from the 11th Regiment of the Indiana Volunteers who fought in the Union Army. The Civil War. That checkered flag look on the shirts. Averaging over 10,000 a game. A lot of excitement there. Maybe hoping to crescendo that into an opportunity right now in their first Open Cup appearance. Second game, trailing 1-0 and a foul here on the 39th. The Crew free kick as they play with 10 after the Bedell sending off.
You got to figure the set piece strategy for the Crew certainly altered as well. Without the height of Bedell, we'll see. This isn't exactly the angle to maybe go for service in terms of a header. It might be looking more directly on goal, but the corner kick strategy certainly altered here without Adam Bedell's presence.
They have Miram on that bench for Columbus. Get to the rest of the 18 a little bit. This is a low driver from Anior all the way through to Neekt. Estridge. Player on the other end of that altercation with Bedell, that run-in that led to the red card. Spies. Jimenez after the giveaway at midfield. Good find for Finley, but Okioma he's had to close down on a couple of occasions, showing why Chivas gave him a look. Was on the roster for barely a month. 5 games in regular season play for the defender out of High Point. Pineda, Ambersley, well, that's right to Josh Williams. Jimenez, Anior, and outsoling to Finley. Crew staying composed, trying to keep it despite 10 men. 9 in the field. Spies with a nice little sequence, but Jimenez realized he would have been a yard off. It'll stretch to Neekt.
Good work by the Crew there, still keeping the ball, finding seams, even down the extra man. You wonder how that red card's going to affect the match as we go along here, but we know the Crew can play possession in the midfield almost better than anyone. The lack might come in the service into the box, but still with the 1-0 lead, they might be content to just pass it around and see this match out at this point.
Moore. Funneling down wide. Williams dispossessed, but the outlet to Palladini too strong. Came kindly to Pineda. That was partially deflected on the way to Clark, but no trouble with it in the end. Here in minute 42. Over the top on that punt. Smith tracking back. Guides it back to Neekt. He's seen all the action in goal, whether it be the Cup or league play, through their 10 official games. Off that side, Chani. Good work with Palladini to dispossess. Jimenez found Finley. Corrado has to hustle to get back and get goal side. Palladini. Good infield run and then took his opportunity. But right off the big man, Okioma.
Crew continuing to find these seams well. We've definitely seen some impressive through balls being played between a pair of defenders there in that instance. Certainly finding the space in behind the Indy back line, which you have to figure might even be higher here as we go along here, minus the striker for Columbus and in need of an equalizer.
Final 2.5 minutes of the first half. Set pieces have been plentiful. The space has been there. But a team that is still solving the ultimate question, that final piece of excellence. Just 18 goals through the first 15 games. Mentioning the bench options at forward. Looking to the second half. Miram there, Arrieta there. From an attacking standpoint. Here's Clark. Spees. Trying to fight off Norales there. Ring. Corrado. Was on that Crew Academy Super 20s team in 2011. The Indy right back. Here he is.
This is exactly what I think Indy are going to want to do here. They're going to want to hold the ball, build from the back. They have that lack of that striker to provide extra pressure on their back line. So if they build it up and work toward getting possession and just getting this match tilted back in their favor, certainly that's the way they're going to get an equalizer in this match.
Clark. Chani. Ring. Ambersley. Pineda gonna run it Parkhurst. That's a good drag back. Good play away by Williams. He was surrounded by red, but did well there.
That ball coming in, a dangerous one. Looked like it was just between two Indy attackers, right to the head of Williams, as you said, but nearly the perfect service there for Indy 11.
Corrado plants a pothole at midfield to bring down Finley. We'll see how much first half stoppage time will be signified by Chris Pencil, the fourth official. Sun fading away. Finley fouled again. And the infringement here from Corrado is going to get him a card. 2 minutes of first half stoppage time.
Yellow card shown to Indy's number 12, AJ Corrado.
It's really the first opportunity for Columbus to serve a ball in on a set piece from the wings, minus the striker Bedell. Chani's coming forward, also in the box. Gehrig, Williams, and Finley here. Crew have 4 players in the target area.
Crew have set foot in Summit County tonight for the first time, their Open Cup match against the Indy 11, 4th round here on the Crew.com as we wind down this first half. Been plenty of set-piece chances, mainly from the corners. 7 of them. Here's Spies. Poaching that right at Neekt. Bowls it on. Mendez gallops forward. Interesting ball toward Ambersley, but Clark reads it well. Ambersley. Moore. Back on for Estridge. The flag, though, was up on the other end from an offside position. Gehrig. A long hit to restart, and that was a little uncomfortable for Neekt in the end.
It was a little interesting play there off that quick restart. Didn't look like Indy 11 really knew if that ball was live or not because it happened so quickly. But in the end, it's swept away by Indy as we hit the end of the first half.
1-0 Columbus. The Crew start well with an early goal off the corner. Anyor from Spies. Things settle down, but the shape of the game changing with the Bedell red card. 10 minutes out from the first half break. What'd you take away from the opening 45 minutes?
Yeah, like I said, in about the 25th minute, the Crew looked like they had the game exactly where they wanted it. They were passing the ball around. They got the early goal, which enabled them to not have to try to do too much. They were able to play their possession style of game, get forward when the opportunity was there, but not have to take any risks in doing so. Now, down a man, it's going to be very interesting to see what Greg Berhalter does. If he's comfortable with the 1-0 lead, we might see them shift back into more of a holding formation and just try to keep Indy away from goal. However, as you mentioned, Arrieta on the bench, Miram on the bench. There has been space behind the Indy back line. I think it's going to be an interesting tactical decision what Berhalter will do down a man trying to finish this game out.
We'll find out here on the Crew.com. First half in the books. Columbus 1, Indy 0. The score here. A 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup on the Crew.com. We'll step out, come back with you in just a little bit from the University of Akron here as you watch Black and Gold Soccer on the Crew.com.
For more information or to purchase your crew format plan.
Back at FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field, as we get ready for the second half of the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, fourth round. Columbus Crew lead the Indy 11 1-0 as you watch Crew Soccer here on thecrew.com. Neil Seek and Ryan Schwepfinger back with you, and Columbus getting that fourth-minute goal from Bernardo Inyor. Ryan, great start, Ben Spees with the set piece. The Crew had plenty of those, but the game changes with the Adam Bedell red card. A big chance for him. Got a feel for him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he didn't really get an opportunity to get on the ball that much. A couple of the set pieces you mentioned came in, narrowly missed a couple headers there in terms of just getting on the ball. But as you say, you have to feel for him because this was an opportunity for him to play with a lot of first-team players. It gets cut short a little bit. As I said, from our angle, we couldn't quite tell if the decision was a correct one, but in the end, his night done after about 30 minutes here in the first half.
Not a whole lot of pressure from Indy, at least in the attack, but they have to feel hopeful knowing that they're up a man. Crew still possessed pretty well the final 10 minutes despite not having Bedell.
Yeah, you know, if you're Indy 11, I think, of course, you're upset that you let up a goal in the fourth minute, but then the 40 minutes after that went all right for Indy, I think. You know, when they come into the second half, they have confidence in the fact that they have an extra man. We'll see what they do tactically in terms of throwing players forward, but if you're Indy, I don't think that was a bad first half by any means. Keeping the Crew off the board when they had a couple of those runs in between the defense, certainly a positive for Indy that it's just a 1-0 game at this point.
Well, as has been the case, the Crew looking for that final precision in the final third. We'll see what happens with the dichotomy of the lineup here in the second half as we're about to resume here from FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field, as the second half underway. Ben Spees, Hector Jimenez, Daniel Palladini, Tony Ciani, Ethan Finley, Inyor, Parkhurst, Garrig, Williams in front of Steve Clark, the way the Crew finished out, but 9 in the field. Ambersley, the Chicago Fire youngster on loan. Pineda, got Blake Smith from Montreal. Pedro Mendez, Estridge, Okiyoma, Morales, Corrado, Moore. A second half substitution as they brought on Don Smart. Neekt is in goal for the visitors. This is a home game for the Crew despite playing here in Akron. This is Corrado. Now the new man in, Smart. It's swung across from Moore. Williams wins that challenge in the air with Smith. The Jamaican Smart is 26. Played in the amateur leagues, RVA FC in Richmond, Virginia. Fredericksburg Hotspur and FC New York in the third division. As we're just underway, settling in on the second half. Neil and Ryan with you on thecrew.com, and glad you're aboard for this Open Cup, the great national championship in its 101st edition. Smart. Trying to run it, Inyor. He'll tag that back. Pineda. Good drag back. He hit it right at Clark.
No changes for the Crew at halftime, but behind the goal there you can see Kevon George, Justin Miram, and Jairo Arrieta looks like warming up. You know, two of those clear attacking options here, so you think maybe Greg Berhalter thinks even with 10 men he might be able to hit a pushing forward Indy team on the counter.
Morales. Here's Moore. Jimenez off for Palladini. Smart replacing Mendez. That's been the Indy substitution. It's Pineda playing more in an advanced role up top, Ryan, as we saw him on the wing in the first half. 34th minute red card to Bedell. 4th minute goal in Yor from Spies. Opening minutes of half number 2. As the Crew attack the AK Rowdies end, which is the student section for Akron games. More tonight, a casual evening for an ice cream cone. Williams. Ski-balled off of Spies, Norales. Smart. Pineda tries some combination. It's Parkhurst. Good dummy and a roundabout by Finley. Okioma to beat. Marshfield, Wisconsin native to Palladini. Noticing Williams getting forward, and his lunge just can't get there. Not a bad buildup.
No, yeah, right there. Obviously, you can see that's where the lack of that 11th man comes into play, because you mentioned Finley makes the great dummy, and he looks ahead there. He's trying to hit Indy 11 with speed, and he doesn't have anybody in front of him really to play the ball, so he has to cut it back, and the Crew are unable to get a scoring chance out of the opportunity.
Ring, Estridge, and now back to Norales. With the exception of a small window in China, he's played in Liga Nacional in Honduras. Smart and Pineda work wide here as Moore finds Ring. As mentioning earlier in the first half, his MLS career, he was good at Indiana, could never really take off, missed that first season with a hip injury. Palladini dispossessing.
Great technique there by Daniel Palladini to come in and poke the ball away from behind without committing a foul. Would have resulted in a dangerous free kick there for Indy, but that's just an experienced defensive midfielder making a quiet play, but certainly one that's not lost on Greg Berhalter.
Chani, another good ball. Jimenez here. Played over a handful of minutes in this second half. Lead has been in place since the fourth. Gehrig. Back on to Clark. Loyola Chicago product to Jimenez. Palladini. Now on to Spies. Forward for Anior. Tackled away by Corrado. It will stay with Columbus. Ryan, I understand you have a clarification on the Bedell situation.
Yes, we've received confirmation from the officials up here in the press box. The referee rescinded the original yellow card and changed it to a straight red for a reckless challenge upon having the discussion with his assistants. So it is not two yellows, it is just a singular red, and that is something that a referee is allowed to do upon discussion with his assistants, is rescind a yellow and change it directly to a red. That's what happened with Adam Bedell.
Anior went Gary Upremium on that throw-in, and it goes back to Indy. Neat. Moore. At Southampton Academy, was a part of it for 3.5 seasons. His senior action came in the Carling Cup, or the League Cup if you prefer, over in England. He's just 20. Played the full 90 in that win against Dayton. That was back in late May. Trying to get a second victory and move on to the round of 16. Corrado looking for Ambersley, the top goal-scoring man in the NASL. He was in an offside position as this cross from the channel comes back, and Pineda had it set up by Smart. But it was rolling on him and goes wide.
But what about that for Indy? That's certainly a positive development here. First happening after up on the right side, the ball is able to be played around I believe that was Finley, and just getting through a quality ball to Ambersley. Just missed it by maybe a couple feet there, trying to get on the end of it, and then a second opportunity comes in, and Indy just whiffs on the chance. But that's the kind of positive development this team needs as they look to build their confidence and get back in this match.
Williams. Jimenez. Cut that inside well. That's good recognition. Estridge fouled him. Palladini takes the quick restart. And a good ball for Finley. The first touch with the forehead. And turn that into a deep throw instead of a goal kick.
Second time there we've seen the Crew try that quick long ball on the restart, maybe trying to catch Indy sleeping a little bit. That was really a perfect ball into Finley, just couldn't hold it down.
Come a pleasant evening in the Rubber City. Foul awarded. And he will kick it away at the half. They had 5 fouls. The Crew had 4. 7-zip Columbus in corners. Mind you, again, this was all at the break. 6-4 in shots to the Crew. 2 saves for Neekt, 1 for Steve Clark. 3 offside calls on Indy. They play +1 in personnel. The Bedell red card on the 34th. And yours goal in the 4th. Standing up for now. Here's Smart. He's been dangerous since coming on as he thrusts that across the goal mouth. Williams blind clearance. Jimenez didn't turn in time. Estridge. Smith. Coughed it up. Palladini. Morales went into the back of Spees.
We didn't get a chance to discuss the Smart substitution too much, but interesting to me that he came on for Mendez, who I thought was one of the most involved Indy 11 attackers in that first half. So
good point.
Really a big role there for Smart. He's going to have to be dangerous like that because, in my opinion, Mendez was on form. You know, you remember the one shot that he did miss high and wide, but consistently it seemed to me he was active along the right side and was creating chances for the visiting Indy 11 tonight.
Smart had appearances in all 9 league games, but primarily as a sub. Had an assist through that spring season. Good combination here. Jimenez, Williams, Finley! High.
Really the perfect combination play for Columbus. And how about that run from Finley? Recognizes the situation, darts in. It's perfect, except for the final finish there. But certainly difficult to fault Columbus. They're creating that chance without an extra forward. Impressive, and that's exactly the kind of counter they're going to be looking to hit Indy with and make this a 2-0 game.
Brad Ring standing in it. Estridge. A good second touch to keep it in play. Pineda. Eight goals as a U16 member in the Fire Academy. He leads the line here off to Smith. Forcing it off Williams. It'll be Indy's first corner kick. 12 minutes into this second half. 1-0 Columbus.
You can really see Indy starting to tilt the field a little bit. You know, Greg Berhalter has to be maybe getting a little bit more nervous than you would have hoped here in the second half. As you say, first corner for Indy, but the buildup has mostly been here down to our left in this second half.
Smith. Smart. Settled. Williams. Frees to Parkhurst. Who launches it back across.
Parker's just content to completely clear it out of the box here as Indy 11 making their second substitution of the match.
It's going to be Ben Spencer. He'll replace Michael Ambersley. There was a point that Ambersley had the ball taken away at the top of the box early in the second half. He looked gassed. Spencer, big target guy at 6'4", 180. He's from Albuquerque, but didn't go to college. Spent time in the RSL Academy. And then on to Molde in the Tippeligaen in Norway. Crew fans may know that club. It's the destination of Manu Ekbo after his time with Columbus.
To me, another curious substitution, taking off a goal-scoring threat in Ambersley. Indy 11 have now taken off their 2 starting forwards, leaving them with little attacking options on the bench. If they're going to have to readjust the formation, maybe trying to chase a goal late, could be difficult here given the personnel.
Well, Blake Smith, who's still wide for the moment, has been known to play up top. Almost 2/3 of the way home. Lenore on tour. Black and gold fans from Northeast Ohio, they've settled in on this home away from home here in Akron. FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field. On the hour mark, it's 1-0 Columbus. 4th round of this U.S. Open Cup. And the Crew trying to avoid the fate of some other MLS clubs under the bite of the NASL. And tonight, Ryan, we've already seen some USL Pro clubs who have made some queasy first division sides in their matchups.
Yeah, just giving you a look here out of town right now, nearing the end of the full 90, 89th minute each. Harrisburg City Islanders beating Philadelphia Union 1-0, and the Rochester Rhinos are beating DC United 1-0. So as we mentioned in our open, these games, no matter the opposition, are never easy. They can certainly be tricky, and here on the verge of now, that would be 5 MLS teams to go down here in this round of play.
Chivas, New York, Real Salt Lake, all going down. DC is the defending champs, by the way. In case you forgot, after that miserable MLS season, they had a fine run in this national championship. They'll be in the CONCACAF Champions League later on this summer. Rochester, they are the only non-MLS club since the modern era, if you will, MLS clubs started playing, to win the title.
Actually, I just want to correct myself here. Hearing on Twitter now that actually this is an error on the MLS site, and that Open Cup game with the Rhinos is in a delay as the Crew going forward here.
Finley! High again. It was Chani taking it away. And another chance going by the wayside. The Crew who could add some comfort to this 1-0 lead despite being down a man, and failed to do so on a couple of occasions over the last 5 minutes.
Well, call it the commentator's curse, if you will, because Maurice Adu has just equalized for Philadelphia. And as I was saying, that match between DC and Rochester is in a weather delay. So really both games have changed here in the last couple of moments.
Smart sets up Smith. He's tied it.
And now this game changes as well. What about that, Neil?
1-1 in the 62nd minute.
Goal for Indy. By number 19, Blake.
Blake Smith, the man on fire in the Open Cup. His 4th goal. Don Smart
1, Indy 1.
has been brilliant since he's come on. And that pass across sets up the Loney for Montreal to tie the game at 1 against the 10-man Crew.
Well, now the ball, of course, shifts to Greg Berhalter's court here. What's he going to do? He does have those attacking options on the bench, and even though his side has 10 men, you have to think he's confident in his team's ability to hold the ball. I would not be surprised to see Jairo Arrieta come on, maybe for Speed. Speed's more of a distributive option here as he's on the ball now, looking to get the Crew back in front.
Jimenez. Oh, Finley wasn't going to get there. So just as we speak of those 2 Finley opportunities shot high, back down at the other end, Smith tying it. Don Smart, the Jamaican. Providing. Those 150, 200 Indy fans that made the journey to the right of Steve Clark. In the north end, they're having a good time. 10-man Columbus now in a battle.
now's when we might see this match really start to open up, because you know the Crew are going to push forward. We do need a winner tonight. No draws, extra time would be the situation should we be tied after 90 minutes. You know the Crew are going to push forward in hopes to avoid that, but then that'll give Indy a chance to counter against a 10-man Crew side. So we could be in for some enjoyable attacking soccer here from both teams in our final 30 minutes or so.
We're nowhere near there, but if the game went to extra time, 30 minutes, the mini game as some like to call it, couldn't be decided, then you'd go to penalties. Mentioning the last time the Crew fell to a Division II team in 2009 on penalties to Rochester. Chani, that is a good ball. Palladini running out of room. Not enough guys in the box, though, for Columbus.
It looked like Neek thought about coming out and trying to play that ball away from Palladini. In the end, decided to stay in his goal, and it turned out to be a difficult decision as Palladini had to just sweep it in play. And the cross ended up not doing much in the end.
Going to be moments away from the first Crew substitution. 25 minutes left. FirstEnergy Stadium. Facility built in 1966. This entire complex, known as the Lee R. Jackson Soccer Field, a 3-year letter winner, former president of Firestone.
Hector Jimenez just missed getting in behind there. Josh Williams' ball narrowly cleared away as Finley has a chance here.
He's done well, and Neekt lunging out to make the save.
Now you can see the Crew starting to take those chances in the box, starting to push numbers forward. They certainly would like to avoid extra time if they can help it, even with 10 men.
Well, down at the other end, it appears Okioma is ailing from something. They're going to look to the sideline. We're going to have a Crew substitution. Indy 11 training staff to look at Okioma, who's been pretty solid tonight for the visitors.
Substitution for Columbus in the 66th minute, entering the game, number 21, Chad Barson. Leaving the game for the Crew, number 7, Bernardo Anor.
The goal scorer in your departs. Have that in the 4th minute. And a fan favorite here in Akron, Chad Barson, will step into the left back role. You were commentating on his homecoming a little bit earlier. Warm apple pie on the windowsill upon his arrival.
Yeah, you know, he has to be absolutely amped to step on this field again, and certainly a place that he values and treasures close to his heart, and he comes on here with a chance to make a difference. You know, it's a defensive-minded substitution, but still, you know, Barson wanted to get an opportunity to play here, and certainly for him, I'm glad that he's getting that chance.
Okioma walks this back to the Indy 11 bench. They've made 2 substitutions. Chad Barson comes on for Columbus. And the way Smart has been terrorizing that side, maybe some fresher legs, the thought process there. 4 games and 3 starts for Barson in league play. Had a start in the Open Cup last year. Williams put that right into the feet of Blake Smith. It was tie the game, the 62nd minute, the moment. Palladini, the captain Parkhurst. Jimenez. Columbus playing with 10 since the 34th. Here's Williams. Interesting for Palladini. Norales going stride for stride. The former Cal State Northridge product. Neekt has it.
Another aggressive run there from Columbus, that time coming from the defensive midfield. Those gaps have been there against Indy all match long. Of course, given the fact that Columbus been at 10 men for about the last 35 minutes of play, it's been more difficult to exploit them, but still, they've been looking to take advantage, and you have to figure they'll take more and more chances as we progress here.
Okioma has come back on the field for Indy. So they're restored to the full complement. Just over 20 minutes to play in the second half, and the Crew in a battle. A 1-1 game. Gehrig. Jimenez left it for Williams. Smart pass from Chani. Palladini regains on the second touch, but launching this right at the German keeper. Moore. Okioma almost put that right into the path of Spies. The left back Estridge. Ring in a very advanced position to what he's used to. Scuffed off Palladini. Spencer to Ring. Oh, what a save by Clark.
Had to have it too. Got that right hand out. That certainly looked goal bound. A big save there by Steve Clark in the 70th, but Indy will go back to the corner here for the second time in this match.
Blake Smith. His goal 7 minutes ago tied things up. Now he delivers the corner. Bounding past Smart.
Looks like Jairo Arrieta is getting ready to come on there over by the Crew bench, so
Clark came off the line. Estridge trying to recover. It's still loose. And Indy 11 leads. But the flag is up. It's waved off. Spencer thought he had the second.
Nervy moment there for Columbus, but credit Clark again, stayed with the Indy attacker as he kind of tried to wait him out. Almost looked like a hockey player trying to wait out the goaltender, shifting there from Clark's left to right. And in the end, he's saved by the offside flag on the second attempt. But this match has opened up exactly as Indy would have wanted, and now we see what Columbus will try to do to tilt it back. Arrieta looks like he's about ready to come on as an attacking-minded substitute. We could be in for a real thrilling final 15 to 20 minutes or so here, Neil.
That ball sent in long from Corrado. And Clark had come off the line, made the rare mistake of not controlling it, ran into Norales at the offside position.
In the 72nd minute,
Arrieta comes on for Spies, as Ryan was just alluding to. 72nd minute.
Ben Speed.
And the game tied at 1.
I think it's a good substitution for Columbus because, you know, you think of Spies more as that distributive threat when he's out there as really the number 10 minus a striker. It kind of takes away his element that he relies on most, so getting a more natural finisher in there in Arrieta should certainly help Columbus going forward.
And while Palladini doesn't play as advanced as Spies, he can ledge toward that end, should the Crew get it. But the thought process here, you had 2 chances breaking behind. You couldn't finish them, and Indy ties the game a moment later. So a guy who has had his ups and downs as a goal scorer, but still the best pedigree of the bunch in Jairo Arrieta. When you talk about the Crew's lone remaining forwards on the roster right now. 73rd minute. Onior in the 4th. He's since gone off with Barson coming on. 62nd minute. Don Smart setting up Blake Smith. And in between, a 34th minute red card to Bedell. Let's have the Crew playing down a man since the back end of the first half. All time, the Crew 20 victories, 13 losses, and 2 ties. An Open Cup competition. They qualified every year with the exception of 2007, 2008. When you had play-in games, MLS did away with that. Only 16 of the 19 is Canada, of course, not eligible. This is Jimenez, a toe poke, and it goes wide from just inside of 30 yards and just over 15 minutes to play. Indy 11, the club's still in its infancy. It's just its 11th competition. We'll get the fall season of the NASL going in July. Trying to make noise here in the Open Cup. Estridge, Smith, Ring. A smart pass to switch the field. Former IU Hoosier to a man of the same caliber, Corrado. Right in at Parkhurst. There's Chani. Leaking it out for Arrieta. Okioma, he might be playing partially hurt, but did a fine job getting over. That ball went out of play. It'll go back to the Crew.
Indy attacking with so much more confidence right down. Their passes look crisper. Their runs look sharper. Everything just looks, quite frankly, better for Indy here. 75th minute now, going on 76. Pushing for a shock win against the 10-man Columbus side.
They have one substitution left at their disposal, and it appears it's going to be for Okioma. He gave it his all after what appeared to be a leg strain. They've tossed the ball back into play and haven't allowed the sub yet. Interesting. Jimenez. Finley cut that down. Claim for a ball on the hand. That's the case. Now's the sub.
Substitution for Indy. Entering the match, number 22.
Dylan Mayers will come on.
Replacing number 23.
He had a quick jog with Real Salt Lake in the preseason. Louisville and Indiana in his collegiate days. He finished at IU in 2013. Undrafted, was signed in April. 22-year-old from Zionsville on the field for Fajero Okioma. Inside of the final quarter hour. But will we have extra time tonight in Akron? 1-1. Moore. A direct ball right at Steve Clark.
Not only do I think both sides want to avoid extra time and penalties simply for the lottery aspect, but I think both sides think they have a solid case to be made that they should have won this game in regulation. You mentioned the chances, the Crew missed before the equalizer by Indy, and now Indy has been taking advantage of a 10-man Columbus side and been arguably the better team here over the last 15, 20 minutes or so, especially since the goal. So if it does come down to penalties, it'll definitely be a result that the loser will be very frustrated with, to be sure.
That is a stiff foul. Estridge supplanting Finley as he made the incising run in the attacking half. And our referee, Dimitar Shavdarov, he sent off Bedell here tonight. Has a long talk to Estridge and a yellow card to finish things off. Crew have one sub at their disposal. Indy has used all three. 45-year-old Jurgen Sommer
Yellow card shown to Indy.
has his NASL club in position to go for the upset here tonight. 10-man Columbus. This free kick, Palladini, on the stroke of the 78th minute. Not a good one. Right at Ring. Smith. That's a good pass. But it curtailed in the end. The run came ducking out. The pressure from Smart, and Mayers trying to apply it as well. Before the deflection gives it back to Columbus on the throw.
Another nervy moment there for the Crew. I thought Barson made the smart and calm play initially to kind of wait on that ball and send it back to Steve Clark, but then a bit of a misplay and an aggressive Indy team continuing to pressure here nearly created a turnover.
Josh Williams will do the honor. Great athlete in high school, could have played collegiate baseball. Wound up at Cleveland State. Impressed the Crew in a reserve game 4 seasons ago, and here he is. Most senior-laden player for Columbus. They look to set up Arrieta on that Chad Barson ball. The Crew, who've had 7 corner kicks in this game, but not one for a long while, have their 8th with 10 minutes to play.
Good sequence there by Columbus. It all started with the ball from Jimenez into Palladini in the middle. A great seeing eye pass that leads to a near scoring chance for the substitute Jairo Arrieta.
Spees taking all the previous 7. It'll be Palladini's job to do so now. Sent over everyone's head. Mayers. Smith. It's Smart. But Parkhurst wedging it off well. One back by Indy. Corby Moore for Smith. Morales switching sides to Corrado, who too has moved back to the left. Spencer, an offside call, took away a go-ahead goal. Lays it off Pineda. Corrado. Pineda, a good ball. Nicked up in the air to Clark. Spencer maybe didn't have the position he wanted.
It looked like perfect service looking there for Spencer, who had to kind of hold up on it in the end. I wonder if he just misread that initially. Another dangerous moment there for the Crew in the back.
It's taken away at midfield by Pineda. Mayers. Narrow-minded run. Here's Spencer. Williams fending that off. Smart. On this near side now. Dragging it back and looking for Spencer again, who's skied it out of play.
Reminder, Crew fans watching this match on thecrew.com to vote for your Barbasol Man of the Match. You can scroll down on our match day page at thecrew.com, cast your vote, and we'll announce the winner later in the match. Tonight's Barbasol Man of the Match. Cast your vote at thecrew.com.
Should this game, after second half stoppage time, go to extra time, there'll be a 5-minute break in between the start of the 2 15-minute halves. As it gets later and later here in Akron.
Important to note that should that scenario arise, Greg Berhalter does still have that third and final sub, a weapon that he might choose to utilize now here in the final 8 minutes, or maybe he'll save it for the 30. Remains to be seen, but Justin Miram, an attacking option, is waiting on the bench. Figure that might be the play for Berhalter as this match continues.
Well, whether advancing to the 5th round last year or the previous 2 seasons, ever since that Open Cup run, it has not been easy for the Crew in this tournament. Upset at home by Richmond. Upset by Dayton a year later. Arrieta's pressure on Morales, forcing it back to safety to Neekt. A win with high expenses against Dayton last year before falling at Chicago 2-1, which was costly again as Glauber tore his ACL in that game. Now 1-1 with Indy with 10 men as Spencer has that go off of his shoulder blade, keeping it alive.
Clever flick there by Smith. In the end, it just again hit Spencer maybe slightly out of position, but another example of a dangerous attacking play there by the former first-round pick, Blake Smith.
Well, we've seen why he was the 8th pick a couple of years ago as Pineda gives it a pop. It's high. And a goal kick for Clark in the 84th minute, but Indiana's confidence remains against 10-man Columbus.
Now, this match tells you everything about the U.S. Open Cup and why it can be so tricky. You know, Indy coming in winless in NASL play, defeat Dayton, score 5 goals on them, and tonight here in this second half, yes, against the 10-man team, but still have looked every bit like they belong on this field. And they've given the crew quite a test here tonight.
Arrieta. Oh, Jimenez took that nicely. Williams. The space cut off. That's a good job by Mares to track back.
Let's see what Indy can do on the run here. Good defensive play by Chani to stop that up.
Very hard to get by him 1v1 in the open field. 1,913 here at FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field. And we're glad you're watching along on thecrew.com. Neil Sika, Ryan Schwepfinger. It's 1-1 here with 5 minutes to play. And you're in the 4th minute, 62nd minute for Blake Smith. The red card to Bedell in the 34th. Here's Finley. Well, he ghosted around Norales, but he kept his ground, and now fleecing it to Pineda. Trying to work with numbers. Don Smith, a big impact since his arrival to start the second half.
Shame for Columbus there on that play with Finley, as he had a streaking Palladini right to his left, could have been in there. And now we have a stoppage of play behind here, as down for Indy 11 is the defenseman Norales.
Appears to be cramping. His keeper Neekt doing some work.
Of course, notable here, Indy is out of subs, so if Norales cannot continue, we would be level at 10 men aside. No, you never want to see that happen, of course, but the trainer is being called on here for Indy 11. And it's also notable because the possibility of 30 additional minutes of play now, just 5 minutes or so away.
You're seeing these humid temperatures, whether you're in Northeast Ohio or Natal, Brazil. You work hard, maybe overextending yourself. Some of the questioning around the United States game yesterday. Beasler, Altidore, hamstring injuries. The rest of Josie's tournament in jeopardy. Leading into the game Sunday against Portugal, which, if you're a Crew fan, we hope to see you out at Crew Cup headquarters, and we'll have live pre-half and post coverage on thecrew.com of that match from Fido Irish Pub, Easton Town Center. 6 o'clock kickoff.
You want to talk humidity, that match slated to be played in the Amazon there in
Manaus. Yes.
Certainly one of the more wetter climates that they'll play in.
You can get there by boat or plane.
Yes.
Norales walking this off. Ryan mentioning Indy has used all of their subs. The Crew have one at their disposal. 87th minute. The Crew were in firm command through the first half hour or so, and then the red card has changed things up. Had a chance to still make it a 2-goal lead before Indy tied it in the 62nd. Off sportsmanship, they'll give this back to the Crew. Norales is waiting for his return. Just a shade below 30 caps with the Catrachos. Swashbuckled their way that first game through France and hung around as best they could before France laid it on them. Foul here. Ring will restart it. 88th minute. Last year to beat Dayton, Justin Miram's late winner in the 84th. Crew would prefer not to play an extra 30.
How about Tony Chani there leading the rush out of necessity? Nearly slotted that pass in. A nice defensive play there at the very last moment, and it had to be there by Indy 11.
Last time the Crew went to extra time in an Open Cup game, it was the semifinals. But a dangerous leaking ball here. Clark was able to shield off Smith in the end. That was the semifinals on their run to the final in 2010. A Scalotto penalty in the 98th minute, the difference at RFK Stadium. Went to penalties in 09 against Rochester, which the Rhinos won 5-3. Spencer, the big target man. Good coverage from Barson and Parkhurst. Final minute of this second half. We'll await second half stoppage time. It appears Chris Penso has a 4 on the board.
You know, sometimes in these situations when you get to near the end of the full 90 minutes, you think which team would have the better chance if the game is to be extended. And quite honestly, right now, it's difficult to really make that call. As I said earlier, you can make the case that both sides should be the winners here. You know, a lot of times you'll see an MLS team say, okay, if the game is longer, you figure sample size alone, the chances will go up in our favor. But tonight, I'm not so sure the way Indy's looked here over the past 30 minutes or so.
Smart tried to stiff arm Chani. Two guys of similar physical stature. 4 minutes of second half stoppage time. If no one can decide it, we'll play extra time. Overtime, of course, no golden goal. 2 15-minute halves. You're in this knockout competition, the fourth round, or the round of 32 if you prefer. Already 3 MLS clubs upset by NASL sides. Indy trying to make it a fourth. Tied at 1. Palladini. Barson, Arrieta forming that triangle. Heaved in. Jimenez has Corrado headed out. Pineda. Moore. Out of play. It'll be a Columbus throw.
Still of note, Greg Berhalter not use that final sub, and it does not look like anybody is imminently prepared to come on, so it looks like he's going to save that one in his pocket, anticipating extra time here.
Morales skies that back into the Columbus defensive half. Gehrig. On back to Steve Clark. Long and out of play. Ring has the throw for Indy. It's their maiden lap here in the U.S. Open Cup, their inaugural season. Barson got in front of Smart there to tuck it to Finley. Tried to accelerate, but too much on it, and Ring pumps it back over.
It appeared that the Crew thought that ball was going to go out of place. It curved back and stayed in, halting what could have been maybe a nice little run if it had been cut down there in the midfield.
The song and dance comes from the Indy fans. Midway through second half stoppage time in a 1-1 game. Parkhurst just shepherding that so it would remain a Columbus throw in the attacking half. Barson looks long over the top for Finley. That's a good play by Ring. But it advances down that sideline. Into Chani. Parkhurst. Williams. Combination with Jimenez, who slipped and sent it awkwardly past Neekt. Well, speaking of extra time, Things developing in other Open Cup action. The winner advancing out of this takes on Pittsburgh or Chicago, as Spencer got a toe to that. Gehrig does well in the end.
You just saw Chavardov take a glance at his watch here. We'll see if he allows one more chance for Indy 11. It appears that he will. They're taking their time with this throw.
Pineda out of play. That game is at 8:30 tomorrow in Chicago. If the Fire and Crew were to advance, that game would be in Chicago. If the Crew would play Pittsburgh, it would be in Columbus, but we're a long way from worrying about that. We're through 90 minutes. We will have extra time here in Akron. 1-1 after 90 in this U.S. Open Cup. We'll step out on the crew.com, and we'll be back with the first 15-minute affair. After this, it's the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup on the crew.com. Welcome back on thecrew.com. We have extra soccer tonight in Akron. Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, this fourth round. 32 teams trickling down to 16. The MLS clubs have entered. The Crew enter their 11th session in extra time in Open Cup history. They are 3-7 in the previous 10. Coming victorious in 2010 on the way to the final in the semi at D.C., playing with 10 men since the 34th minute after the Bedell red card. And Yor scored what seemed pre-World Cup in the 4th minute. And the goal by Smith coming in minute 62. Essentially a tale of two halves. Smart out there. Indy has made all of their substitutions. Columbus, one left at their disposal. Arrieta and Barson have come on in the second half. It's Neil Sika and Ryan Schwepfinger from FirstEnergy Stadium here at the University of Akron. Winner to the next round, the final 16. Indy's first appearance in the Open Cup is Pineda. Taking it away, it's Smith. 4 goals now in this U.S. Open Cup here tonight, and then the hat trick against the Crew USL Pro affiliate Dayton. Mayers, he was a late substitution for Okioma, who had a leg injury and had to depart late in the second half. Indy still putting the front foot down. They've got the throw in the final third. Mayers. 2 15-minute sessions. No golden goal, of course. That was only a temporary run. Not only in MLS history or U.S. soccer history, FIFA history. Corrado. Smith, Pineda. His confidence has grown as the game has gone along. It's Smith. Got that target man, Spencer, inside. Support from Mayers. It's headed away.
Another good-looking ball there by Indy.
Smart. Good sprightliness by Finley, and then he's fouled by Smart trying to recover on it.
Before we went to break, you mentioned things happening in other games. Philadelphia has taken a 3-1 lead on Harrisburg. 2 goals by Andrew Wenger in extra time there has given the MLS team the apparent result as they're close to wrapping up. Elsewhere, Rochester still in a weather delay, leading DC United, about 25 minutes left there. But Orlando City has gone up 1-0 on Colorado. So another pair of MLS teams in some trouble here in this tournament.
Well, not an MLS team yet. Soon to be. Orlando City, of course. They've been the belle of the ball in USL Pro the last couple of years. Here, 9 field players and Steve Clark in a 1-1 game with newbie Indy 11 of the NASL. Pineda took it away. Smith turned right into Gehrig. Williams. Jimenez. The Costa Rican, Arrieta. Clearly flying high from a patriotism standpoint after his country took down Uruguay. And of course, the two crew defenders, Francis and Gonzalez. Gonzalez a vital part in that victory. Here is Arrieta, a pocket of space. A good find by Barson. Accelerates and is taken down outside the area.
Arrieta wants a card, and I think he's going to get one here. As you mentioned, just outside the area, but here's a free kick in a very dangerous position for the Crew, looking to take a 2-1 lead here in the 5th minute of extra time.
It's to Norales.
The yellow card caution has been issued to Indy. Number 5, Eric Norales.
He has taken
in the 95th minute.
Some time here with cramps late in the second half. Scoreboard clock is counting up. And away into minute 5. 95 for the official record as Palladini off the wall. There's Jimenez hustling after that recoil.
Of course, normally that's where you see Federico Higuain taking those kicks, and right when Daniel Palladini knew he was going to have to start for the game when Federico Higuain was suspended, he too put in some extra work at free kicks and training. Stayed after one day for a little bit of late work on that, anticipating that he would be called upon. There, his free kick on target, but right into the wall.
Ball is out of play towards midfield. Josh Williams pleading his case that it's further on up, but he'll take a stroll back. Throw in midway in this attacking half. Looking for Finley. Trying to leverage on Norales. Came back to Arrieta. 3 goals in league play. Here's Parkhurst. Late run by Palladini, but 6'4" Neekt easily treeing over the midfielder.
Crew getting very aggressive there with their fullbacks. Parker stepping forward to play that ball. Chani shifted back to cover, and it was just Chani and Garrick really anywhere back in defense for the Crew. They're certainly looking to push forward here even with 10. Avoid penalties at all costs.
97th minute. Here in this 4th round of the Open Cup. The discussion sometimes always falls to, do you play your big name guys? Do you let them rest? We've seen the Crew predominantly with their starters on the field, and of course the red card changing the complexion of this game, but it has still been a battle with Jurgen Summers' team. Neekt, Spencer, Pineda. Mayers went into the tackle but put it right on Chani's toe. Jimenez, Finley, not going to get there.
You mentioned it a couple times that Greg Berhalter is still holding on to that substitution, and curiously the 4 eligible players are all kind of watching from the corner. They're not going through the normal warming up motions, possibly to conserve energy here, as you know the Crew are going to be looking for that burst of speed, as Indy has been out of subs for quite some time now.
Well, if this continues, you would say all signs point to Amiram in possibly the second 15, and if it goes to penalties, or if you can get a goal here, go more defensive. On the cusp of the 100th minute.
Good ball.
Here, over the top, Spencer in a battle with Gehrig and Clark. Coming outside the 6 to snatch it.
Played well in the end by Columbus, but another good example of Indy finding a seam and nearly making something happen here. Now here's a chance the other way.
Jimenez a good shift. Can this ball leak to Arrieta? Good tackle, Norales in the end.
And he's down too after making that possibly match-saving tackle for his team.
Sacrificing and now cramping once more. Second time. The Indy center back.
You can see players from both teams now taking this little moment of respite to kind of catch a breather. Hector Jimenez was just sitting down doing some stretching. Michael Parkhurst grabbing a drink of water. A couple players for Indy are stretching out here. You can tell it's been quite a battle out there. Players from both teams tired, as you'd expect, after just about 99 minutes of soccer now.
Talking about the last time the Crew went to penalties in the Open Cup, that was 2009. Rochester, the A-League, won at 5-3. Game remembered by Crew fans for a spectacular goal by Duncan Outen.
Let's not forget, too, when you think of Crew and penalties, the loss to Colorado at
yes,
home
in the playoffs.
in the Open Cup ended unceremoniously by Brian Carroll after the first 9 players had all made their penalties, if I do remember correctly.
It was a 2-1 win in the home leg, and then Colorado, of course, going on to win MLS Cup in 2010, beating Toronto. That game was in Rochester. Another salt of the earth town. Like we are here tonight, Summit County, Akron, Ohio. And the Zip Campus, FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field. Over 100 minutes played now. We're in the first session of extra soccer, and Parkhurst is fouled by Spencer. His presence on the fields, think of traditional center forwards, big target men. Richmond had one. Dayton gave the Crew some problems there, as this is finagled down the middle. Arrieta and Finley trying to get position on Ring, who's been very good tonight for the 11. Williams. Chani back to Gehrig. Barson. Wind up Ethan Finley. He'll continue to go. Knocked out of play by Smart. Here comes the throw. And it appears that final Crew substitution is moments away from occurring. Will they allow it here, or will we resume play? It will be Justin Miram. He'll replace Hector Jimenez. And they were looking like they would allow it, then not, now they will. So Jimenez is off, and Miram comes on.
Entering the game is number 9.
In minute 1:03.
You have to imagine that Ethan Finley will shift over to the right side now, allowing Miram to play his natural left position. We've seen Finley out right mainly for the Crew in league play.
Loves to cut in field. Here he is. There's an inaugural touch, four-headed down. Finley can't hold. Smart. The long lob. Mares was streaking out of the back. Chani. Gehrig. Morales basically playing on one leg right now with those cramps. Heads it away.
This is better for the Crew. They've controlled the ball here mainly throughout this extra time period, especially the last 5 minutes or so.
Indy is out of subs, and now the Crew have used up their allotment. Final minutes of this first extra 15. Arrieta had it taken away by Mares. Wiggles down the middle. Gehrig got in there to tackle it away from Smith. Estridge now to Corrado. He's made a 40-yard run. Tapped off to Smith. Williams providing late cover. Spencer. Pineda onto Estridge and back. And Indy will look over their options. If best of the Crew with shots on goal, 5-3. Tied it in the 62nd on the Smith goal. Barson climbing high over the back of Smart. Launched towards Arrieta, but nowhere close.
We mentioned earlier that Deshaun Brown was drafted right near Blake Smith. He has scored to level Colorado with Orlando City. And another out-of-town look there.
Chani takes away that passing route as Finley cut down by Moore.
He remains down here on the sideline as Chani holds on to it. We'll see if the Crew notice and play it out, and that's exactly what will happen.
Finley walking it off. A card for Moore. The Crew. And their reaction, maybe anticipating that it could have been more.
A bit of a funny situation. The ref first grabbed the red card, and he was holding it in his hand for a split second. The fans in front of us here were also anticipating it to be red, and then it was put back in the pocket after the official noticed it was the incorrect color. So
the fourth official on the sideline has indicated that there will be a minimum of 2 minutes.
2 minutes of stoppage time in this first overtime. Neither keeper really threatened. Now you're starting to deal with tired legs on a humid night. There has been a bit of a breeze, so hasn't been a complete sauna, but still. We see another cramp as Estridge pops that over for Spencer. Indy trying to recognize that situation. And Morales will play it out. To save time, their own players doing the physio work, trainer work.
It's the perils of extra time. So difficult, especially you mentioned not the coolest of nights here in Akron. A bit humid as well. Difficult conditions out there, especially when you're asked to play extra time. Break, though, coming up shortly here as we are now deep into the 2 added minutes of the first period of extra time.
It's extended into a long Joe Walsh guitar solo at Blossom, this one. 1-1. Williams plays it away. And we will flip ends and step into the next 15 minutes of overtime here in Akron. Columbus and Indy of the NASL tied at 1 as we roll along in this 4th round U.S. Open Cup match. We'll come back in just a few moments on thecrew.com. Ready for the second 15 minutes of overtime here at FirstEnergy Stadium. Neil Sika, Ryan Schwepfinger of thecrew.com. Thanks for staying with us. In a 1-1 affair, 4th round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, 10-man crew. Adam Bedell, a red card, just past the half hour. Onior scored in the 4th minute on a header on a Spees corner. Blake Smith in the 62nd. From Don Smart, tied things for the visitors. This is a home game for the Crew. They're in extra time in their Open Cup history for the 11th time, trying to avoid penalties. They brought on Miram as their last sub. They earn a final third throw here in minute 106.
And you mentioned the 10-man crew. You could definitely notice it was a 10-man crew for the majority of that second half, but here in extra time, you wouldn't really be able to tell unless you went out and counted them up. The crew have definitely been active on the ball. They're finding space. They're holding it, and here, a chance here.
Speed. It's sent across by Finley, rather. And Palladini has it back and smacks that away towards Talmadge. A goal kick for Neekt. German keeper. Made 2 saves in that victory over Dayton in May. Karlsruhe, along with Nuremberg, 2 of his clubs in Germany. More notable ones. Battle for it, smart on the hustle. Kept it in. Runs the channel on Barson. Earns a throw. Mayers. Wide for Smith. Pops that into the mix. Fell off Parkhurst, and Mayers coming on late.
Well, certainly dangers there for the crew. That bounced in an area where it looked like it was going to be taken by Spencer. He looked to be right on it, but he held up and waited. I guess maybe he thought a teammate was in better position to play it, but in the end, the crew were able to clear it. But that couldn't have sat any better for Indy.
Mayers has had some influence since he's come on the field. Here it rolls off kindly, and it's Smart. Not so with the shot. A goal kick for Clark.
And you can see his reaction there. He thought that might have been the one for his team, holding his hands up to his forehead as he watched the ball travel into the bleachers behind the goal manned by Steve Clark here at FirstEnergy Stadium.
Well, Ryan, we were taking a stroll in pregame. It's a long walk to the locker rooms. Got a dugout area for the temporary setting, but pregame, it's a good 5-minute stroll. Coming up on 110 minutes here of U.S. Open Cup soccer. The knockout competition. Oldest in the land, Miram. Good run, laying it back. Arrieta watching it fizz by him. Mad scramble, Palladini in the end. Estridge is down still. He's been battling cramps. It looks like he's got him again. And now a red card. Palladini has been sent off. The crew are down to 9 in minute 110.
Well, it was behind the play, and it was immediate. Palladini coming in. We'll get a look at the replay here as my attention was turned to the ball moving forward as well, but evidently Daniel Palladini taking a whack behind the play and immediately sent off. No hesitation from our referee.
Looks like as he was coming back, he got his elbow up into the face of Brad Ring, it appears.
You can see out of the corner of the shot, he just kind of threw an elbow up, right near the shoulder head area. And now the crew's task is made that much tougher here. 10 minutes away from penalties, but it's 11 on 9 in the interim.
Palladini takes a walk. And the crew look like they've been part of a mob hit. Down 2. Finley. Miram. Starts the run forward in a crowd of 4. Couldn't continue that dribble. And it's Corrado. Murad's down the wing. Good 50 yards before crossing it into the path of Pineda. He can't control it.
You know, I was going to say just before the red card to Palladini overshadowed it, what a run by Justin Miram getting in. You could tell he has the freshest legs on the pitch because he was certainly whizzing his way around the Indy 11 defense there. And now, minus another man for the Crew, it's going to be even more crucial that he gets on the ball and makes things happen, as it appears he shifted more centrally in Palladini's absence.
8 field players and Steve Clark. Bedell in the 34th, and the red card to Palladini. Just before minute 1:10 here in overtime. No golden goal. Steve Clark now has a chat. And a yellow card for apparently time wasting, or that second rule that was put into effect.
A yellow card caution was issued to Columbus number 1 Steve Clark.
We hit minute 1:22. Finley can't battle around Corrado. Chani swoops in front of Mayers. He still tries to pest around. Miram going forward. It's interesting when they do so, but you just don't have the support in numbers. Marston will throw in.
I can't speak to U.S. Open Cup history, Neil, but I can tell you I just took a look. In Columbus Crew MLS regular season history, they've only had 2 other occurrences with 2 red cards, the last one coming September 16th, 2006 against the Red Bulls.
Finley, taken down, penalty.
Well, what about this? It looked like a just call, even though it's being protested by Indy. Finley being chopped down on the left here, and now a glorious chance for a 9-man side to leave it late with just about 7 minutes left on the clock.
He never starts working. Brad Ring is stunned. He's called for the foul inside the area. And Arrieta steps to the spot against Christian Neeks. So Neeks facing Arrieta, who's converted 1 penalty in the regular season. Brad Ring called for the foul on Finley, who came in off the left. And in minute 1:24, the Crew trying to take the lead with 9 men. Arrieta got a goal. The Costa Rican scores Columbus to a 2-1 lead.
Well, what a goal there for the Crew. And, you know, ironically, we've been talking about this game being settled on penalties. It looks like it might be settled on a singular penalty here as Jairo Arrieta slots it home, possibly avoiding a more lengthy series of spot kicks. And certainly for the Crew now, they'll be looking to hang on for dear life as Indy 11 will throw all of their numerical advantage forward against the 9-man Crew side.
Just over 5 minutes to do so. Here's Arrieta. 1v5. Hits Estridge. Square on. Ring. Still not happy about the call. The contact looked sufficient from here. Parkhurst away. Red cards to Bedell. Palladini. The goals 120 minutes apart. Or 10 rather, as that's crossed in. Outside the range of the center back, Norales. Minute 1:16. The PK converted in minute 1:14 from Arrieta. Cleared away. Up behind the Columbus bench and the stadium ground. Ring into Estridge. +2 in personnel for Indy. But it's 2-1 Columbus.
How many times do you see this crew are in a 4-4-0 formation, if you will? It's a unique look, especially seeing that they're going to have to defend, but Finley streaking up along the left side here.
Giving it his all. On the 50-yard run, Neek just taps it out. Smart. Spencer. Pineda the throw. Three and a half minutes to play. Moore looks to be cramping. Ring. We'll see what they add on to. Lobbed over the top. It sets up now, if this holds, the crew play into the round of 16 on June 25th. That will be at Crew Stadium if they play Pittsburgh. They'll be in Chicago if the Fire are victorious. That game is tomorrow night. Clark. Gehrig pings that away to the wing. Brad Ring, only half a season in Portland, decided to come home to Indy instead of try it again in MLS. Here's Smart. That cross got caught up into the waist of Parkhurst and fed away for an Indy throw. Minute 1:18. Ethan Finley's in-sizing run to the penalty area. Minute 1:13. Ring the foul. Arrieta converting the penalty. The difference right now. A 9-man team in gold out there. Corrado looking for the big target, Spencer. Parkhurst overran it. Chani swoops in. Cleared it enough for an Arrieta battle. And the cagey Costa Rican is fouled.
Just about in a minute and a half left here before any stoppage time added on. You have to expect at least one, maybe even two, given the goal. Crew aren't out of it just yet. Hanging on for dear life, although I have to say, I don't think Indy's been as incisive as you might have expected, given that they're being opposed by a 9-man team here.
Ring to Smart. Scatters it across. Estridge. Mayers playing advanced. A little too much for Smith to throw as we're into minute 1:20.
And there's another example. That can't happen if you're Indy. You're running out of time, and now you know the Crew are going to hang on to this ball here as they're in no rush to get it back in. Indy, a simple pass out wide. Costs them roughly 30 seconds here and maybe more as Chani shovels it further downfield.
Clearly been a test for the Crew. Aided by their player deficiency. But Indy, good adjustments to run with the flow of play, as now Mears trying for a late miracle. But he sends it right to Clark. 2 minutes of stoppage time.
A good run, you have to say. Mears strong on the ball there. In the end, just can't quite get a shot off. Well, he does, can't quite get a powerful shot off with his left foot. As you mentioned, 2 minutes more here for Indy to try to find an equalizer against 9-man Columbus.
Here's Pineda. We're seeing a lot of limbering 11 players suffering from cramps, and the Crew have dealt with that but the volume of work too. Indy's been training, however, just playing 9 games in their spring season. Don't have the body of work. So this long stretch as Pineda, he cramps, Williams takes it away.
Crew actually have numbers forward here if they want it.
The smart play is to take it to the flag, leading by a goal. Stoppage time in overtime. The red card to Palladini in this second OT, but moments later, Finley, this wiry run into the box, earning the penalty. The Costa Rican Arrieta to the edge of the box where Estridge clears, and one more thrust forward for Indy if they can possess.
Escape work there from Arrieta. One on a foul, didn't get it. Now Indy back the other way.
Spencer from Norales, the big center back. Bulking on through, he's got it to Pineda inside the box. Pineda! Oh, he's just missed. That was the chance.
Around Garrick, who's having some words with the official. Indy 11 placing the ball on the goal line for Clark. They know the Crew are going to take their sweet time with this goal kick here as we have to be nearing the end of the 120 and even more.
Clark over the top. What an effort from the NASL newbie. But in the end, the Columbus Crew survive and advance in the 4th round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. 2-1 the final score. The late penalty from Jairo Arrieta decides it, and the Crew advance to the next round.
You know, you use the phrase survive and advance, a phrase we hear commonly associated with the NCAA basketball tournament, a tournament also renowned for its upsets. And in a year when we've seen plenty early on, the Crew do just that, survive and advance against Indy 11. A Jairo Arrieta penalty kick is the difference, but really what an effort from Indy. You know, they go down to 10 men. Columbus goes down to 10 men, and Indy does their best. They get the equalizer. They keep fighting. But Columbus does well to hold on after even going down to 9 and earning the victory here tonight.
As voted by you fans, Bernardo Añor, the man of the match, the Barbasol man of the match. He had the goal in the 4th minute. As we are back here at FirstEnergy Stadium, Cub Cadet Field, Neil Seek and Ryan Schwepfinger. Long marathon affair, but it's Columbus 2, Indy 1, the final, and the Crew on to the next round, which is the meat and potatoes, what you want, the result, but it comes at a cost of 2 players red carded, going against an Indy side that pushed you to the limit, and especially in that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Greg Berhalter's not going to be happy with his team's play. I think certainly you mentioned the discipline. That'll be an issue that'll be brought up, but you have to credit what his team was able to do. Steely resolve, difficult conditions, a long match, literally based on the extra time, and the Crew were able to hold their wits about them after going down to 10. They only allowed 1 goal. They certainly could have allowed a second. Indy had their chances, but in the end it's that Jairo Arrieta penalty. And then an extended spurt defending with 9 men, not easy for roughly 8 minutes or so. The Crew gets the job done in the end.
Ethan Finley, an impact, of course, earning the penalty, and the guy keeps going and going. You saw maybe the frustration right before Indy tied the game with Blake Smith in the 62nd minute. He missed 2 good chances inside the penalty area, but working hard to the very end, earns the penalty. And the Costa Rican, always confidence for a striker, whether you're in Open Cup play or league play. Arrieta converts it. Wasn't pretty, but the Crew take it.
No, definitely not. And you mentioned Ethan Finley. I think the Crew have really found something here. Ethan Finley has been really one of the engines of this team over the past couple of games, extending into league play. Even with Federico Higuain kind of being on the shelf, he's been really the guy they've gone to for crucial goals. Doesn't quite score a goal tonight, but making that play to draw that penalty when you're tired after running for 110, 112 minutes, finding that extra burst to get in the box. I think the word you used was an incisive run, exactly what it was. Not easy to do given the fatigue factor, and it turns out to be the play that really gives the Crew the win before Jairo Arrieta buries the penalty.
Nice intimate setting here in Akron as the Crew victorious 2-1. Another guy that stood out, Chani, continues to play well in the absence of a guy like Will Trapp in the midfield and doing a solid job defensively as the Crew will have their next test. We'll know if they're at home June 25th if Pittsburgh is victorious. Still waiting for the date if Chicago wins that game tomorrow night at 8:30. And there's that regional rivalry, that nemesis of Chicago in Open Cup games that seems to rear its head the last couple of seasons, if that's the case.
Yeah, either matchup would be intriguing. You know, Chicago and Columbus go back in MLS play for years. It's a rivalry. They just played a great match at Crew Stadium. The Crew, of course, coming out on top. But Pittsburgh would be an interesting opponent as well. We know Columbus and Pittsburgh just really building up a hockey rivalry over the past couple of years. That has a chance to extend to soccer should the Riverhounds face the Crew in this tournament here.
All right, my friends, safe travels back down 76 and 71 as the Crew will head home back by bus and be back in action in league play on June 28th. They'll take on FC Dallas for Red, White, and Crew Night at the stadium. That is an 8 o'clock kickoff. Ryan and I will be back with you for pre-half and post-game coverage on thecrew.com on Sunday when the United States takes on Portugal. Group G action of the FIFA World Cup continues. Your Crew Cup headquarters at Fido Irish Pub at Easton. Hope to see you there, but you can watch along at thecrew.com. Great working with you, my friend. And, of course, you'll have a full recap. We had a nice conversation, too, with Jurgen Sommer. And back to Columbus we go.
Of course, follow along with all of our coverage. Thecrew.com is the place. I'm on Twitter at @Crew_Insider. I'll have the reaction piece from tonight's match. And as you said, we had a good talk with Jurgen Sommer, one of 4 Crew players to represent the United States in that 1998 World Cup. He had some good stories to tell about that. We'll have that for you. Thecrew.com is the place for all your coverage.
Thanks goes to the Crew staff, most notably Skylar Schmidt, for getting us up and running here on thecrew.com. For thecrew.com's Ryan Schwepfinger, I'm Neil Sika. The Columbus Crew, they needed overtime to do so, but they advanced past NASL side Indy 11 by the score of 2-1. Arrieta's PK in minute 114, the difference. Columbus advancing to the round of 16 in the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. We'll talk to you Sunday from Fido Irish Pub on thecrew.com. Until then, from Akron, good night.